Përshëndetje and welcome to Inside Albania with me, Alice Taylor. This week I have two very special guests on the show. They are two Albanians who are doing amazing things, both in Albania and outside Albania. The first is Bujar Bakiu. He works in AI. He has a very successful AI and data company in Germany and is also working in Albania. We're going to be talking about his success, but also what he thinks of Albania's new virtual AI-powered minister. I'm also speaking to Anjeza Popaj. She is Albanian, living in the UK, and she is on MasterChef, which is one of the most longest running and most famous TV shows in the UK, which is screened on BBC. It's a cooking show, and she is bringing Albanian food to the whole of the UK. It's nice to see someone in the UK on TV talking about something positive for a change. Bujar, welcome to Inside Albania. Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to meet with me. It's an honor.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Now, I want to start at the beginning for our viewers. How did you get into the field of tech and AI? Have you always been in Albania? You've done a lot of work in Germany. Start at the beginning.
Yeah, so I did my bachelor's here in Tirana, but then moved to do my master's in Germany, where I finished there. And then after working for a couple of years there, I understood that I was always interested in the big data world. It was always kind of a passion for me. And then I understood that, okay, this is something where I can give a bigger impact. So that's why, together with Sadiq, my brother, we started DataMax around 4 years ago. And then, since then, the world has kind of taken a shift. Like November 2022, when ChatGPT came out, revolutionized everything, made AI pretty much the keyword token in every boardroom, in every government meeting, or in every startup world. So, yeah, we were lucky to be there at the time.
I bet you were thinking, wow, good decision. It's kind of prophetic in a way that you chose this.
No, it was like, actually, we could see that, like, we saw that AI is actually part of the world. This was changing everything since then.
Yes.
But it did not have the hype that it has now, but also the pace and the speed that it has now. But we were like quite confident that, yes, it is actually the topic to be in.
I mean, ChatGPT seemed to come out of nowhere, but I always think, what we see, how it's being used now is years behind where AI actually is, So when there's a lot more going on behind the scenes in companies and with people like yourself who are developing it, it's actually more advanced than the usages we as the general public get.
It is, but I'd not say too much advanced. It is, I would say, close, but and behind the scenes, it's a lot more happening that we got to see, like, probably in 6 months' time.
What was it like going from Albania to study in Germany? Like, the language, for one. How did you manage that?
It was, it's not that hard. It's like, no, you get.
I suppose if you speak Albanian, other languages are a lot easier.
For sure. German is tough as well, but still. You get used to it. If you talk to people, talk in the supermarket, in the coffee shops, especially if you talk to kind of old people there, you get the hang of it rather quickly.
And does your company work in Germany as well, or is it just working from Albania?
No, we have part of our team in Germany. 90% of our projects are with German clients.
Great.
We do some work here in Albania, but less of it, because the topic we work in, like building complex AI system, building complex data systems, data platforms, is not a topic that we see very often in Albania. Usually it requires a bit more volume of data and also use cases where data can actually bring strong value.
Companies that are able to invest in it, because I imagine it doesn't come cheap, and are also at that stage. I sometimes feel in Albania we're slightly behind in terms of, like we were saying just now, when I message someone through a website in Albania, I'm surprised if they have a website sometimes. Lots of people still don't, or they don't use it. We're still
there.
Yeah. What are the main differences that you found working in the German sector and then working in the Albanian sector as well?
The first value that we see is the vision like from the executive board, do they have the vision to see that AI will actually bring value to them for the scale that they have? In Albania, we don't see this that much. We see a lot more skepticism in the executive level that, okay, do we really need it? Or can we just hire someone that actually does this work for us? This comes because the scale of the companies in Germany is different. It's usually much bigger. And therefore, there is no amount or no number of people that can actually handle such volume of data, analytics, or AI systems. So that's why you need automation. You need things to be done automatically by themselves. In Albania, we don't see that because the scale of the companies are rather smaller. And then if you have a team of 2, you can hire one more, make a team of 3, then they would be able to handle it. However, recently, in the last 1 or 2 years, I've seen a change in the mindset. I get a lot more calls from Albanian companies, actually, who are interested how AI can help us in the business. Most of the time is about automating certain processes, which is hard to hire people. It's not that it's hard to hire people, but it's like kind of a very monotonous job, very boring job that is like kind of data entry style of work. And then people come there, stay for like 6 months, and then they leave because they're bored. And this is the processes that we see a lot of interest to actually automate such processes, that there are systems who the job of a team of 3 people for 10 days can actually do it in 10 minutes.
And actually, we'll come back to this automating processes thing later. So what projects have you been working on? I mean, I understand a bit about AI from my work. I work as a tech editor for a big media as well as Euronews, so I'm quite geeky about it. But I think the general public know about Siri and ChatGPT and maybe Grok if they've tried some other options, you know, and that's sort of it. So what sorts of projects are you working on? And in simple language, so...
So one project is in the energy sector, where we actually take the data from smart meters and then calculate how much energy each resident has used or how much water they have used in monthly basis. And then on top of this, we kind of do something called outlier detection, meaning that if something looks off, then we flag that, like, hey, this doesn't look correct. So let's look
I
at
had
this.
a leak at home and I was paying like 4,000 a month for my electric, and I had to go to the water company like 4 times. They had to send 2 teams of people to figure out that there was a problem. So something like this would have been solved by your solution.
Exactly. It would have been at least flagged, and then someone will have to take a look at that. But this would be the idea. We have done a lot of work in media as well, in the terms of forecasting the audience of a certain show. Like if a show is broadcasted at a certain time, what is the audience that is expected to
That's
look
really
at that?
interesting, because in Albania, we don't really measure the audience. There's no way to know who's watching. So
beside the YouTube videos.
You have no idea who's tuning in sort of at home or anything.
But one of my favorite projects is one that we did with an online retailer that, based on the history of a certain individual, then we'd forecast what is the likelihood that if they purchase something online, will they actually return it or keep it? So we'd say like, okay, we are 80% confident that they will keep it, or 90% confident that they will return the item. It was quite cool because it helps a lot in forecasting the costs.
Yes, but what data do you use for that? Like, how do you figure that out? If I'm a first-time customer, what data would you need to know to forecast that?
If it is a first-time customer, it's a bit more difficult, but there are patterns. Like there's customers like you who have the same kind of taste, the same kind of fitting. And then this helps to actually match and to do the so-called market segmentation. So you segment the market and then you say, okay, in this case, Alice is more like towards this group of clients, and then we expect that kind of behavior. However, we are now developing also our own digital solution in terms of AI, and it is towards big solar parks. And then we have developed a solution that forecasts how much energy is going to be produced by the solar park into a 15-minute time interval. So for every 15 minutes of the day, we forecast how much energy it is expected to be produced by the park based on the data that is collected, historical information, as well as local weather conditions that we see at the moment. And this is something that it's already being used by 2 parks here in Albania near the Fier region. And this helps them to first do the trading. So when they sell energy, to know how much energy to sell, how much to promise. And then also it helps them with reporting to OST, the transmission operator here in Tirana, in Albania, because they need to have also information of how much energy is being put into the grid.
I have another question. You know Albania very well, obviously you're Albanian. If you could design an AI solution to fix a problem in Albania, like if you had to pick a priority, what would it be?
It's tough. I'd start with the traffic in Tirana.
Something with the traffic?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Something like traffic monitoring and route planning, that sort of thing. The traffic, it's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare. So, especially the bike lane. I'd like to have it clean all the time.
Yes, yeah. Or, less cars altogether, I think would be beneficial. So Albania has made some very big headlines recently to do with AI. The Prime Minister, it was in August, he said, maybe we could one day have an AI ministry, maybe even Prime Minister, but he hasn't given up his job yet. He's accepted his 4th mandate. But what he's done is appointed an AI minister, Diella. Now, I have my own thoughts about this. I think this concept of a minister and giving her a name is marketing in a way. It's a way to make it easily understandable and acceptable, and of course to make headlines as well. But I think the concept behind it, using AI to manage certain processes within governance, is a solid one. And I think it's not just Albania which is going to be doing this. I believe other countries, Sweden, are already starting to look at this and are already using AI in various areas of governance. But let's go back a bit. What was your first thought when you heard that we're going to have an AI minister?
I was not expecting that. So I was expecting a ministry of AI, but apparently this was not the case.
With real human ministers.
Exactly. So something that designs kind of the strategy, how to integrate AI in the politics, but I was not expecting that. However, as far as I understand, it's not really a minister, but it's more like a way of a system being built to actually help against corruption in Albania, which corruption in public procurement, which makes sense. And it is a long-lasting problem in Albania that has been there all the time. You hear it in the news daily.
Yes. At every level, though. I mean, it's not. We can't just say, "Oh, it's just the government are corrupt." There is problems in every level, in every institution.
In every institution, public or private.
Yes.
So in this case, I think it's a wise investment. It's something that's worth to do, and I think it's definitely important to take this topic seriously. But it's a controversial topic in terms.
The way I see it and how I've kind of explained it to people is now often when you apply for a job, you upload your CV and they have an AI program, which is the AI program knows, okay, we want someone who's aged between 25 and 35. They've got a degree with a minimum of a 2-1. They have at least 10 years. It has criteria. And then you upload your CV. And if you meet the predefined criteria, you might get an interview. Like the AI will select your CV. If not, thank you for your interest. Good luck next time. The way I see it is this is maybe how they plan to use it for public procurement. The system will have the very specific requirements of the tender, of all the criteria, and you submit the bid. If you meet the criteria, congratulations. If not, goodbye, try again. There's no sort of, let's meet for a coffee and talk about it. Yeah. Am I right? Is this a good way to maybe explain how something like this could work?
It is correct. What you are missing right now is that who designs this AI system to think in such a way. So obviously there is some team that has worked on this AI system to actually bring this in this shape and take into consideration these criteria. The challenge here is that how transparent is this? Can it be overseen? Is there someone actually monitoring the systems, that there are no hidden, that they may, hidden, let's say, I don't know, manipulations in the systems.
AI is only as good as what you put in.
Exactly. So there are two criteria how AI systems are in generally designed. First is the data that you input in there, which in terms of Diella, we don't know yet what is the data that it was fed in. But it also the reward systems, like what rewards a good behavior from the AI system and what is a bad behavior from the AI system, which is something that we also don't know. What is the reward system?
We have to reward it. Does that mean I should be saying thank you to ChatGPT when I'm...
It's not in that way. So usually the certain AI systems, they think in terms of reward. Like if I take this decision, will I get a penalty or a reward?
Okay.
And then this way they learn what is the way to go in the future, which way to go. And both of these things are important. For example, ChatGPT rarely says, I don't know, because it has been trained to actually not say, I don't know. It gets a penalty for that. And that's why it does not say. And that's why actually in the previous versions, there were a lot more hallucinations in the ChatGPT, that you'd see that even if it did not know or there was no information for that, it still kind of ramble on about something.
This is the problem I've seen, people's main concern. There are people who don't understand it and they think, Diella is going to be like ChatGPT. There are people who say, well, it's not democratic because she's not elected. But the main complaint I see is, if the government is corrupt, then they're just going to create a system which favors their corruption.
Yeah.
This is the concern, basically.
Well, it is... you can think that way. The point is that we don't know. It's like we don't know what data it is going to be fed in actually to take the decisions in the public procurement. I believe that it's not like that. I believe that the general intention is to actually offset, to remove the responsibility of taking these decisions from the individuals, which might be might get corrupted into a system that is actually incorruptible.
Yes.
In theory.
In theory.
In theory. However, we need to be very careful that these systems are actually like that.
But what about integrating with things like blockchain? You have smart contracts,
Does not make a difference. You're just storing the data there.
Yeah.
But if the data is like that, it's still the same. However, you can do the monitoring of the system, make it transparent why it takes certain decisions, make it transparent what data was it trained on, make it transparent on what kind of recipes was given to behave. So, for example, 2 weeks ago, there was the Swiss kind of government deployed their Swiss AI, which was a collaboration between ETH, EFPL, and the Swiss Supercomputer National Center, which was very, very interesting because they produced a large language model in the flavor of ChatGPT, which was actually not state of the art, but it was very transparent on what data was it trained, was very transparent on how it was told to behave, and it was actually multilingual, so it could speak English, French, and also Swiss dialect of German. But the main advantage here, it's actually very transparent how it was trained. Why does it give these decisions, or why does it give these answers for these given questions? And this is also something that we should aim in terms of Diella, that it needs to be very transparent how it behaves. We need to have the ability to actually challenge it, but also have the ability to understand why it took such a decision.
Because there's the problem of accountability, if Diella makes a wrong decision or a corrupt decision, you can't take her to court, can you?
Well, exactly. The point is, who is responsible for these decisions that Diella takes? There is the concept of accountability sinks. So you will see often enough in companies who have an email address that say, if you have a complaint, send an email to this address, which is actually not monitored or whatever. And this is the topic of also Diella, like, would it be an accountability thing that people who are corrupt actually build a system that is corrupted, but they take off the responsibility from themselves into some system that does not exist, or you can not challenge that, which I hope it does not become such a thing. I hope that Diella actually brings a way to flag and to reduce such an issue of the corruption in the public procurement in Albania. And I believe with the right mindset, with the right work, it can actually bring this kind of progress in the society.
Now I'm going to get a bit dystopian for a second, but should we be worried about giving AI power over government and governance and citizens and decisions and finances? Might there come a point where we lose control of it, where we've handed over too much?
There have been cases of that before. So, for example, there was one case in 2021 in Netherlands where they had there was the Child Care Act, which so basically in Netherlands, the child care, you have to pay for it, but for certain marginalized group or minorities, it was provided by the government. There were some kind of loopholes in there which some people took advantage of, and then they built an AI system to kind of detect the fraud. But the fraud was, since the data was kind of biased, so because the people who applied for there were actually already marginalized groups, and then the system would actually flag valid cases of childcare support application as fraud. And then people actually sued it, and then it got made unlawful. There was another case in Australia a couple of years back in 2016 where they had the RoboDebt. That was a system that automatically detect based on the income discrepancies, detect if you had a debt to pay in taxes or not. But
that would be helpful here, I think.
That would be helpful. The challenge here is that they also had some flaws in the system, and then it got made unlawful, but then the government had to pay a lot of fines as well in terms of billions of dollars.
Is there a risk of losing control of the AI is what I'm saying? You know, if we're using it in government and let's say, you know, we have other ministries run by AI, other AI ministries, is there ever a risk that you can lose control of it?
I don't think so. It's important to understand that AI is not a human being that can actually think and make decisions on itself.
Yet.
So it has to be, not anytime soon. I don't see it happening. But however, it can be a huge help, and utilized wisely, it can actually bring a lot of efficiencies, as we see it in the private sector every day today. But I don't think that it should be the decision maker. It is a tool, it is a help, but there is always a human need to actually oversee that.
Like when we use ChatGPT, it shouldn't be doing your work for you, but it should be assisting you in your work.
Exactly.
Yes. Do you think, I mean, can you see any other benefits of it being used in government? So in voting, in counting votes, in this sort of thing in the future? Because this would be a good area to use it in Albania. You know, after every election, they spend months fighting over 10 votes and, oh, this one did this and this one. Can you see an AI application in the voting process and the vote counting process to make things a bit more stable?
Automation of vote counting has been done for years now. It's not something new. It can be done. It is done quite a lot in... especially in the Western world, where the volume of data is big and you cannot actually manage this manually. I think it can be done, and it's not a technical challenge, it's more of a trust challenge anyway. So I still believe people will be fighting over those 10 votes anyway, with AI, without AI.
What would they have to fight about otherwise? You know, they'd be bored of what to argue about in Parliament.
But it's, I think it's a mindset change that you have to actually think of the systems They say that, okay, we have this system, we trust these systems, and then we're going to move on.
Yes.
We're going to move on with them.
Okay, away from Diella, what's next for you, your business, Germany, Albania?
We see ourselves growing quite a bit, especially in Germany, but also in Albania. We see ourselves becoming kind of a leading partner in terms of data and AI systems, because both are very important. Without data, you cannot have AI systems. And then in the future, we want to move on with our product in the solar park world, because we see a lot of value with that.
Yes, of course. And you work mainly with Albanian people within the company, Albanian talent?
Yes.
Yes.
So most of our team is Albanian talents here in Tirana, which we actually take them from right after the school or probably when they are in university. And then we work with them quite a lot in order to train them, grow them, and then become actually quite experts of this field. But we have also our team in Germany that we work with as well.
Good for working with young Albanian talent as well.
It is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's important as well. I think there's a lot of potential in tech here that's not being exploited at the moment.
Absolutely. And I think it's a field that is actually growing a lot, and it's opening a new window into the Albanian ecosystem, that the technology has so much more to offer, and there are so many opportunities to actually grow in there.
Bujar, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Anjeza, welcome to Inside Albania. Thank you so much for joining me today all the way from London.
No problem at all. Actually, we're not in London. We're in Nottingham.
You're in Nottingham. Sorry, my bad. I assume most people are in London.
Yeah.
How is it being on MasterChef? MasterChef is like a British institution. Like, it's something I grew up with. I think is it older than me? Almost. Like, how is it being on such an amazingly well-known and high-profile show?
You know what? It's actually a dream come true.
Yeah.
I grew up with the program as well. I've watched it since I can remember.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just like the craziest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. I can't quite wrap my head around it still, probably.
So, okay, let's go back a bit. So you were born in Albania, but then you moved to the UK. Tell me a bit about sort of your early life in the UK and then the story leading up to you ending up on MasterChef.
Yeah, of course. So I came to the UK with my family when I was 4 years old, just about to turn 4. And to be honest, we moved around quite a lot. We lived in Bedford for a while, and then my family moved to Somerset just to follow kind of like work. They worked in factories and warehouses, and there was a lot of work in Somerset to them. So I grew up most of my child to like teenage life in Somerset.
Where in Somerset?
Where there's not. In Bridgewater,
Yeah.
a town called Bridgewater, Somerset. And to be honest, it wasn't like those years that I lived there, especially in the town that I was in. We were kind of the only Albanian family that we knew of in that area. So I grew up in a very kind of like English-focused place. It wasn't very multicultural whatsoever. And then when it came time for me to go to university, I thought, I want to live in a city. I want to live somewhere that's got a lot more going on, because my town was just so small and there was nothing really to it. So I moved to Nottingham, and that's where I studied. And it was such a culture shock. I just didn't realize England had so much to offer in terms of diversity. It was the place I got to make so many friends from different backgrounds, different cultures. And that was just a real eye-opener. And especially in terms of like food and cooking as well, because in my little town, there was like an Italian restaurant, an Indian restaurant. That's pretty much it. Whereas Nottingham has such a diverse food scene that it really was the first time I got to try a lot of cuisines that I never really experienced growing up. And then obviously when I was a student, I got a job as like just like a little part-time job as a waitress. I worked at Rub's Smokehouse, like this kind of American style smokehouse area. And then I stayed there for a bit, and then I moved and I was a waitress at Rev de Cuba, which is like a really fun, like cocktail, Cuban food, really vibrant place. So that was like my first kind of like I want to say like a little dabble into the food industry because you really do get involved with like the menu and understanding the flavors that we were offering customers. But then obviously uni was up. My time being a waitress was up, and I had to kind of find my big girl job after uni. So I kind of started hunting for more kind of corporate avenues. And that's when I got my job. My first kind of like job was just a generic customer complaints handler for like a credit card company. And then I always had ambitions because I studied law and I did masters in corporate and insolvency law. So I always had this mentality that I was going to work in financial crime. So as soon as I got my first kind of corporate job, I was like, okay, I'm going to work my way up here and try and get to where I want to be. So that's where I ended up being the money laundering investigator that I am now. And then I just put cooking to the side for so long. I was just so focused on career and working and getting myself set up in life that it really was on the back of my mind. It was just something I did to feed myself, nothing more. And then as soon as I got a bit settled, I guess, in the corporate world, I was like, okay, I'm pretty comfortable now. I'm pretty happy with what I've achieved. I feel like now it's time to kind of explore my like inner passions a bit more. And I would always post food on my social media, on my personal account, what I was making for dinner. And people would always reply to me being like, this is insane. Like, how did you do that? Show us how to make it. And I was like, you know what, maybe I could do that. So that's when I opened like my TikTok and my Instagram pages. And I would constantly be posting videos, not very consistently, I must admit. I feel like I could have been a lot more consistent with it. But it was just still something I did on the side. It wasn't any income for me. So it was just something that I did as a hobby. And then as soon as I really started getting a bit more traction on my pages, I started to think to myself, maybe I am quite good at cooking. Maybe I could actually do something with this. And I was just watching MasterChef one day, and it was on the back of me launching my Instagram. And I was watching some of the dishes they were cooking, and I thought to myself, I know I can make that. Like, I could make it. I was like, I could do better, actually. And it just, I was like a moment of confidence that just caused me to like, it had an advert at the end of the show that I was watching saying, apply for next year's MasterChef. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do that. So yeah, absolutely. And that was the start of everything, I guess.
You know, it's funny. One of the things I miss most about the UK, well, one of the only things I miss about the UK, I don't miss much, is the access to like all the different types of food. British food, in my opinion, is not that great. But I really miss having access to world cuisine. You know, sometimes when they invite me for interviews on TV here and they say, what food do you miss most from the UK? And I'm like, oh, good Indian food or Nepalese food or Lebanese food or, you know, decent Thai food. I miss having that, you know, street food from different cultures. And because, yeah, we have Indian, Chinese here, but it's not the same, really. It's a shame. I miss it.
No, absolutely. I feel like it's funny, isn't it? Because isn't like the most popular dish in England is a tikka masala?
Yes.
And I think that just speaks for like the culinary world in England. That
yes.
Just love embracing other cultures like cuisines. Like we love it. I don't think anyone in England will say that like fish and chips is their favourite food.
No, like it's nice. When I went with my husband to the UK, it was his first time there, and we had fish and chips, and he was like, well, it's nice, but it's just sort of beige, really, isn't it?
Nice.
It's not like, wow, you know, that pie and mash was just incredible. Like, it's nice. I'm not hungry anymore, you know, it tasted good, but it's nothing to really rave about, you know. So when they called you and told you, you know, congratulations, you're going to be on the show, what was your reaction?
I couldn't quite wrap my head around the fact that it was happening to me. Even you saying it now,
you're like,
making me really flat again. I'm like, what do you mean I was about to show? Are you joking? It was an insane feeling. It was really weird because there was an audition and there was a series of phone calls and interviews and questions and follow-up, and there was a lot of background until I got the phone call that said you will be on the show. And when I got the call, I was just at home by myself, and I got off the phone and I was looking around my living room. I was like, I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
There's nobody here for me to like scream at. So I just started like jumping up and jumping.
If the neighbours saw you through the window, they'd be like, yeah, she's lost it, you know.
Yeah, it was like 5 minutes of pure, overwhelming excitement and like pride. And then the rest of it was like the fear just instantly kicked in. I
mean, 2.2 million people are going to be watching you, you know?
Exactly. I was just so fearful that I'd like got myself in deeper than I probably should have. Because in the application, I was like, okay, there's thousands of people that apply. Like, to be fair, one of the things that I did to kind of like differentiate myself to everyone else was I honed in quite a lot on the fact that I've never seen another Albanian contestant on the show. I've never seen Albanian food on the show. I said I could bring like a breath of fresh air, I guess, because we do get the same kind of cultures represented over and over again. I was like, let me just try. I'll do something different for you.
And also,
so I think maybe that's what made it stand out.
And also, as we've had, the British media is not particularly kind to Albanian people, and the British government, like it can be horrible. And I think it's nice, it's really good to have such a positive representation of Albanian culture on TV. You know, this is really important, especially at this time when, you know, the media and politicians are really trying to drum up hate against this group of people, like they did before with Bulgarians, with Polish, with Serbians, you know? So I think this is an important part of it. Do you see an element of that in your participation as well? Like, I really want to show, you know, the truth about Albanian people and culture and food.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I consume quite a lot of media. I'm quite, I've always been very on top of it with like social media, the latest programs, films, and every single time, not every single time, 98% of the time that we see Albanians represented in media, it's very rarely for something positive. It's only really happened recently that we've had more positive representation, I guess, with the likes of like Dua Lipa, Ria Ora, I forgot her name, but the lady that's behind the AI
Mira
creation,
Moratti,
like
Lea Yupi as well.
Exactly. And like, it's only in these last couple of years that that kind of positive kind of association with Albanians has come. And I was just like, that's a nice start, a nice trajectory for us to actually associate ourselves with some of the amazing work that we do around the world. Like, obviously not just cooking wise, but in music, in technology, in business, because so many Albanians that I know are such hardworking people. They work in amazing professions, like policemen, marketing people, accountants, lawyers. Like the people that I know in my social circle, they're all such hardworking individuals. That is so. It's difficult to always see your country linked to the negative things when you know there's so much beauty and like hardworking people behind the true like community that we have.
Have you had any, I mean, what's the feedback been online and from people you know? Have you had any negative comments from people who don't know any better? And what has the response of the Albanian community been like?
It's been a real mixture all round. I kind of anticipated some of it, but not all of it. Like, I feel I wasn't really anticipating people being so interested in my job. And I was like, I just thought that would be like a fun fact about me. I didn't think it would be kind of like a lot of the backing behind the comments and things that I've been getting. But obviously after the program was airing, my cousins were all on Twitter, like searching my name, seeing what people were saying.
Never do that.
And a lot of they tell you never do it, but curiosity is a killer. And a lot of the people were kind of just poking fun at the fact that like I'm Albanian, but I'm a money laundering investigator, and that's such an ironic thing, and like it's weird. And I was just like, why is that weird though? like they're only saying it's weird because they're associating Albanians with being like criminals, as the UK media likes to portray. So the fact that I work in a department that's dedicated to like catching money laundering and reporting it to the government, they find it to be like this
conspiracy or ironic or something. Yeah.
Some people were like, oh, they've got an inside man. And I was just like, what do you mean?
Okay, maybe there's an element of British humor in there, because sometimes this like really dry, sarcastic, sort of ironic humor gets me into quite a lot of trouble. But yeah, generally people are a bit dumb online. That's my general impression. To be honest,
I take everything with a pinch of salt. Like, I understand humor as well.
Yeah.
And when I saw the tweets, I was a bit like, oh, yeah, I get it. I get where those come from. But it just kind of like circles back to the point that I was making, that's what we're associated with. So people just find it odd that you're not that kind of person and you're breaking the kind of like image that they have of Albanians in their head. But I like that. I like that it's causing a bit of like conversation about that.
Yes.
I think that's a really good thing. It's been so like overwhelmingly like prideful to see a lot of Albanian women, especially actually, commenting on my video, being like, "Oh my God, like your job." There's people that's messaged me being like, "How do you get into it? What can I do to like do something like that?" And I've been like responded, and that's been really lovely because I just feel like, again, it's just like a little. I guess they are seeing someone who's from the same background as them, probably has the same upbringing and history as them, that's got into a job that they would like. And it's like an inspiring thing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and that feels incredible. I wasn't really anticipating the whole job thing to matter so much, but I actually quite like that it's been a talking point because it is a cool job.
Yes,
I like it. Like I've always liked my career. It's never been like something that I've tried to deviate from, but yeah, that's been really lovely. The rest of the kind of like responses, I guess, aside from the job, the other most common comments that I get circling around is the way that I made the traditional Albanian dish on the show, because everyone is so opinionated as to how it
Oh my God,
made.
tell me about it. I've made like lakro, barek, fazule, grosh, and when I put clips on my social media about it, it's like war breaks out. No, you should do this. No, you should do that. You've done this wrong. No, you have to put this in it. It tastes better with that. That's not how I do it, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, everyone has their own way of doing it, you know? No, not one is better than the other. So I feel your pain there.
Exactly. People are so kind of like prideful, I guess, about the way that it's cooked. And the way that I did it was not the traditional way. And I've said that in the comments, like everyone's like, this is the traditional. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Like, I've given it my twist.
Yeah, it's like, it's based off the way my mum made it for me. And it's based off the way that I enjoy eating it. And obviously I had to take certain things into consideration at the time we get to cook it. So the way I would traditionally make it at home, I wouldn't really make it.
What was it you made?
That I made it. I made tavkosi, but I made it with, instead of lamb pieces, I made it with jofte. And the jofte were mixed with beef and lamb meatballs. And that was purely to account for the fact that we had an hour to make 8 plates of food. And slow cooking lamb and getting it as tender as I want in an hour. I couldn't do it. So I had to deviate.
When I heard you say how you made it, I can imagine the comments, you know, like I think I said, I mentioned once that I'd put a bit of garlic in the barek I'd made. And I mean, I may as well have just sworn about Mother Teresa or something, the way people responded, you know, it was like... But what has the response been from non-Albanian people about the food that you're cooking? Are they curious about Albanian cuisine? Is it well received? Has it inspired them to cook? You know, because this is the message as well. It's sharing a part of Albanian culture.
Yeah, like the Albanians that have commented about the tav, like I said, they've commented on the nitty-gritty bits and how they would change it and X, Y, Z. And to be honest, a lot of them also said you should have picked a different dish, and you shouldn't, or some have even said you shouldn't have done an Albanian dish at all because they're not going to get it. They're not going to understand the flavour profiles. But the English community's response to it has been like so opposite and so overwhelming. Like they've said, oh, it was nice to see something different. And like, if that looks interesting, I'd want to try that. Like a lot of the English comments have been so positive. And they've said as well that you're really brave for representing your culture and showing something completely different on the show. It's really been only positive from the English community in regards to the food that I actually made. Which is funny because I guess yeah, exactly. And it's the whole Tavkosi thing was such a big talking point in my family, because we had to submit the food that we wanted to cook, I think about 2 weeks or so before we actually came into the studio to cook. So they needed to make sure that they had the ingredients, the materials that we needed, everything needed to be submitted beforehand. And I told my family, I'm going to take, like in the first round, I did a bean dish. And that's what got me through kind of like first to get an apron. And it was an amazing moment. But then I didn't have to cook the second round because I already got through. And then the third round was the round where we had to do 8 plates of food, 4 mains and 4 desserts, or 4 starters and 4 mains. That was the option. And it was the only time in MasterChef that I knew of that they give you complete freedom over what you cook. Whereas like the first round was like a specific brief, and it had to be a specific kind of like to hit a brief. And this time was going to be the only time that they weren't going to give a specific brief. It was just the amount of plates of food you had to cook. And I said to my family, I'm going to take this opportunity to make some Albanian food because I don't know if I'll get a brief that will allow that in the future rounds that I might do. And everyone was like, don't do it. They're not going to understand it. Like, just cook something that you know is really well received by the English, like... well,
like every other contestant. Or, you know,
yeah, they were like, think of the competition. You want to get as far as you can. Just do something that you've cooked 100 times, that you know how to make. Don't try and do something different now because it's too risky. Like, what if they don't understand the flavor? They're not going to... like. And I said to them, I was like, guys, you are my family.
You're Albanian. Be proud.
Yeah. I was like, I thought you would be the most proud that I would do an Albanian dish, but they just wanted me to go further for like their own like personal. They wanted me to see me succeed, and they were just worried that it was a risky move.
Are you planning?
And I got what they were saying.
Are you planning to stick with an Albanian theme if possible?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's weird because my background is so kind of like mixed in regards to the food that I like, but it always comes back to Albanian food. It always, when you come home and you just want something comforting, it's always coming back to Albanian food. And a lot of the TikTok videos that I make, that I show different recipes, or it's always the ones with the Albanian recipes that get me the most views and the most comments and the most traction online. And I feel like I will do other things, of course, because I just enjoy food as a overall kind of like thing. But I will always bring it back down to Albanian food, because that's, I think, what differentiates me and my page and other food creators that might be out there, because there's such a saturated market.
I'd love to see like pace on BBC, you know, like a lamb's head in a big pot or something, you know. Maybe a bit extreme, but burek on BBC, you know, this is a headline.
Exactly. I just want, like, we have a lot of people, including Albanians, will say that we don't have much of a authentic cuisine because it's influenced by the Ottoman Empire, it's influenced by the Greeks, it's influenced by these people. I think that's a bit of a silly thing to say, because I don't think there's any country in the world that hasn't had influence from their neighbours in regards to the type of food they make. Like, I was in Sicily recently, and they were telling me that, you know, sugar didn't exist in Sicily until I think the Arabs brought it over, and that's how they make their granita, which is like their local prideful dish. And I'm like, you see, There's always something that you can go back in history and find it actually originated from. But no one says granito is an Arab dish. They say it's an Italian dish, it's a Sicilian dish. So I think it's the same with Albanian cuisine. Like, you can say that a lot of our dishes are influenced by Turkish or Greek culture, and I don't dispute that. But we still make it in our own way and with our own flair and with our own kind of like style. And I think that should be showcased more rather than just being so quick to dismiss the fact that we even have a cuisine. But yeah, I think that's really important.
I was once, there's an Albanian restaurant in Brussels, and I was there speaking to the owner, and I think he talked to me for about 40 minutes about how trileche is actually Albanian in origin, and the Albanians made it first, and then it went to South America, and then it got brought back. 45 minutes, his whole theory.
There we go. I would love to hear that 45-minute conversation.
We actually filmed some of it for an interview. My editor was like, I don't know what to do with this, you know? But he had it all laid out, you know, very specific timeline of how it happened. So, yes, I think you're right there. Now, what's next for you? I mean, aside from the show, what's next for you and your cooking?
I really want to hone in and take especially my TikTok page a lot more seriously. I want to be a lot more consistent. It is sometimes really hard to juggle my corporate job plus the TikTok, because you end up being so drained sometimes that when it comes time to spend hours in the kitchen filming, it can be really draining. But I feel like I really found a kind of like some rhythm in it now, and I want to keep growing that, because not just because of the platform, but the opportunities that you can get from the exposure on TikTok is so amazing. Like, I've had some really cool messages from different type of businesses and people who are interested in like collaborating and doing XYZ together. That I'm just like, oh my God, if I keep kind of like going down this road, it could really be something special.
Yes.
So I think that's like my more immediate kind of like next steps. But ultimately, and this is like dreaming really big, I would love to like have a little cafe or a restaurant or something. I think more specifically in Nottingham, maybe, to really kind of like embrace and hone in on Albanian cuisine and showcase that in a way that's consumable on like the high street next to all the Mexican, Indian, Chinese restaurants. Like, it would be such a dream for in the future, and when I have kids at some point, for Albanian cuisine to be something that they can just find on the high street and like create like a real kind of familiarity with it. Because I go to a lot of Albanian restaurants when I'm visiting London. I try to like find the specific restaurants that do Albanian food, and I'll do a video on it and a little review. But there's nothing really in Nottingham like that. A lot of the Albanians that I know in Nottingham might have like a Greek gyros place, or they might have an Italian, but they haven't bothered to really do anything that did. Yeah, it's more commercial, isn't it, to go down the whole Greek Italian route. But I don't want to be commercial. I want to be different, and hopefully people enjoy it and take it in. And if it works, and that'll be amazing. But yeah, I think that's ultimately my biggest dream. But I need to figure out a way to get there, but
I'm sure you will.
This space.
Anjeza, thank you so much. I wish you all the best of luck with the show and with your big dream as well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Alice. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. That's all for this week. You can follow Inside Albania every Saturday on Euronews Albania at 4 o'clock, on our YouTube channel, Euronews Albania, or across all major podcasting platforms. If you have any ideas for guests or topics or anything you'd like to see me talking about, you can find me on TikTok, on X, and on Instagram, Alice in Albania. Until next week, Mirë Pafshim.